The massive warship moved through space like a dark shadow. Its black metal hull was covered with scars from 1,000 battles. Inside the ship, something walked through the narrow hallways that made even the bravest soldiers step aside in fear. Keffer was not like other creatures in the galaxy. He stood 12 feet tall on legs thick as tree trunks. His skin was made of hard black scales that could stop bullets. His hands ended in claws sharp enough to cut through steel doors. When he opened his mouth, rows of teeth gleamed white against his dark face. His eyes glowed like amber fire in the darkness. He was a Vorthok, a race built for only one thing: war. His people had been changed long ago by scientists who wanted the perfect killing machine. They got what they wanted. Keffer had never lost a battle. He had never run from a fight. He had never felt fear. For 30 years, he had served the Zephyrian Empire. They sent him to worlds that would not surrender. They sent him when other soldiers failed. They sent him when they wanted to make examples of planets that dared to fight back. Wherever Keffer went, death followed. His room on the ship was filled with trophies. Weapons taken from defeated enemies hung on the walls. Bones from creatures he had killed sat on shelves. Each piece told a story of another world that had fallen to his strength. Each piece reminded him that he was the best at what he did. The ship's captain was a thin blue alien named Commander Vextel. He was smart and cruel, but even he was careful around Keffer. The commander walked into the trophy room where Keffer was cleaning his weapons. "We have a new mission," Vextel said. His voice was high and scratchy like metal scraping stone. "A human world called Haven Prime." Keffer looked up from the massive hammer he was polishing. The weapon was as long as he was tall and could crush tanks. "How many defenders?" he asked. His voice was deep and rumbled like distant thunder. "Only 50,000 humans total on the planet," Vextel replied. "Most are farmers and scientists. They have a small security force, but nothing that should trouble you." Keffer nodded. It sounded easy. Too easy, perhaps. "What do we know about humans?" Vextel activated a hologram that showed images of human soldiers. They looked small and weak compared to the other species Keffer had fought. Their skin was soft and pale. They had no natural weapons like claws or teeth. They seemed to break easily. "Humans have been causing problems in other systems," Vextel explained. "They fight longer than they should. They use tricks and refuse to surrender even when they cannot win. But they are still just soft creatures with short lives." Keffer studied the images. He had fought many species that looked weak but proved dangerous. The crystalline warriors of Nexus had seemed fragile until their bodies turned into living weapons. The shadow dancers of Void looked like children until they could walk through walls and strike from behind. "What makes them special?" Keffer asked. "Nothing," Vextel said with a laugh. "They are new to space. They have no real technology, no special powers. They just refuse to accept when they are beaten. Haven Prime will be simple. Kill the defenders, destroy the settlements, prepare the world for mining. Standard procedure." Keffer stood up to his full height. The room suddenly felt smaller. "How long do I have?" "The High Command wants this finished quickly. 1 day, maybe 2 at most. Show the other human worlds what happens when they resist the Empire." Keffer picked up his armor piece by piece. Each section was black metal mixed with alien technology. When he wore it all, he looked like a machine built for destruction. The armor made him even bigger and stronger. It had systems that could see through walls, weapons that could destroy buildings, and shields that could stop most attacks. He strapped on his weapon belt. Plasma guns that could melt through stone. Knives made from metal harder than diamond. Grenades that could level city blocks. The massive warhammer went across his back, held by magnetic clamps. "The dropships will be ready in 1 hour," Vextel said. The orbital bombardment will begin after you secure the primary targets. Kethver walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Soon they would reach Haven Prime. Soon he would add another world to his list of victories. Soon more. Creatures would learn to fear his name. He thought about the humans he had seen in the hologram. They looked so weak and small. Their weapons seemed like toys. Their bodies seemed like they would break if he breathed on them too hard. It almost seemed unfair, but Kethver had learned long ago not to feel sorry for his enemies. Mercy was weakness. Hesitation meant death. The strong survived and the weak died. That was the only law that mattered in the galaxy. He had destroyed the proud Centauri Federation in 3 days. He had crushed the Hive worlds in a week. He had broken the spirit of the Titan clans in a single battle. The humans of Haven Prime would be no different. The ship shook slightly as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Through the window, Kethver could see a blue and green world spinning slowly in space. It looked peaceful. It looked quiet. It looked like it had never seen war. That was about to change. Kethver made his final preparations. He checked his weapons one more time. He reviewed the maps of human settlements. He studied the weak points in their defenses. Everything was ready. The humans below had no idea what was coming for them. They were probably going about their normal lives, working in their farms, teaching their children, thinking they were safe. They would learn otherwise very soon. Kethver had never failed a mission. He had never shown mercy to an enemy. He had never questioned his orders. He was the perfect weapon, and weapons did not think. They only destroyed. The dropship bay doors opened, and Kethver walked toward his transport. Other soldiers moved out of his way without being asked. They knew better than to get close to him before a battle. Fear followed him like a shadow. Even among his own forces. As he climbed into the dropship, Kethver felt the familiar excitement before combat. His blood moved faster, his muscles tensed. His mind focused on the simple task ahead: find the enemy. Kill the enemy. Move to the next target. The engines roared to life, and the dropship fell toward the planet below. Haven Prime grew larger in the window. Soon he would walk on its surface. Soon its defenders would face him in battle. Soon another world would fall to the might of the Zephyrian Empire. Kethver had no way of knowing that this mission would be different from all the others. He had no idea that something waited for him on Haven Prime that would change everything he believed about strength and fear and what it meant to be a warrior. The dropship broke through the clouds, and the invasion of Haven Prime began. The dropship hit the ground with a loud crash that shook the earth. Dust and smoke filled the air as the metal doors opened with a hiss. Kethver stepped out into the morning light of Haven Prime. His massive feet left deep prints in the soft dirt. Around him, more dropships landed like falling meteors. Zephyrian soldiers poured out, their weapons ready. The sky filled with the sound of engines and gunfire. The invasion had begun. Kethver looked at the human settlements spread out before him. The buildings were small and simple, made of wood and stone. Gardens grew between the houses. Children's toys lay scattered in yards. It looked peaceful and quiet, nothing like the fortress worlds he usually attacked. The humans were not ready for war. Their security forces scrambled to set up defenses, but they moved too slowly. Their weapons were old and weak. Their vehicles looked like they might fall apart. Captain Jake Morrison, their leader, tried to organize his men, but he only had 50 soldiers against thousands of invaders. Kethver walked forward, and the battle began around him. Human bullets bounced off his armor like raindrops. Their explosives barely scratched his shields. He moved through their defenses like they were made of paper. His plasma cannon fired bolts of burning energy that melted through walls. His war hammer crushed their vehicles with single swings. Wherever he went, the human defenders fell back in terror. Some tried to fight. Some tried to run. None of it mattered. A group of human soldiers set up a big gun behind sandbags. They fired at Kethver with everything they had. The shells exploded against his armor in bright flashes. When the smoke cleared, he was still walking toward them, completely unhurt. The soldiers looked at each other with fear in their eyes. One of them threw down his weapon and ran. The others followed. Kethver stepped over their abandoned gun and kept moving forward. Building after building fell to his assault. A school became rubble under his hammer. A hospital burned from his plasma fire. A marketplace collapsed when he threw a grenade into its center. The humans had built their town with care and love. He destroyed it without thinking. Captain Morrison tried one last desperate attack. He drove a tank straight at Kethver, firing as fast as he could. The shells hit Kethver in the chest and exploded. For a moment, smoke hid the alien warrior from view. Then Kethver emerged from the smoke, grabbed the tank's cannon, and lifted the entire vehicle over his head. He threw it into a nearby building, where it exploded in a ball of fire. Captain Morrison crawled from the wreckage, his arm broken, blood on his face. "Surrender now," Kethver said, his voice loud enough to be heard over the battle. "Your people cannot win." Morrison looked up at the towering alien. "We'll never surrender to monsters like you." Kethver could have killed the human with one blow. Instead, he stepped over him and kept walking. The captain was no longer a threat. The battle was over. Now came the part he knew well, making sure no enemies remained hidden. His thermal sensors showed people hiding in the buildings that still stood. Standard procedure said to eliminate all possible threats. Kethver moved through the settlement, checking each structure for survivors. Most buildings were empty. The humans had fled when the shooting started. But in one apartment building that had partly collapsed, his sensors detected many life signs. In the basement, Kethver broke down the door and walked down the dark stairs. The basement was full of families hiding in the shadows. Men and women held their children close. Old people sat quietly in corners. When they saw Kethver's massive form filling the doorway, most of them screamed and tried to run to the far end of the room. But one small figure did not move. A human child sat on a wooden box in the corner. She had brown hair tied with ribbons and wore a blue dress that was dirty from the dust. In her arms, she held a stuffed animal, something soft and brown with button eyes. Kethver had killed children before. It was part of war. Enemy young grew up to become enemy soldiers. His commanders had taught him that mercy to children was just delayed killing. But something about this one made him stop. She was not screaming. She was not running. She was not begging for her life. She just sat there looking up at him with wide brown eyes. There was no fear in her face, only curiosity. Kethver raised his plasma cannon. One shot would end her life instantly. She would not suffer. It would be quick and clean. But as he aimed the weapon, the child spoke. "Are you hurt?" she asked. Her voice was soft and clear. "You look sad." The words hit Kethver like a physical blow. In 30 years of war, no enemy had ever asked if he was hurt. No one had ever looked at his face and seen sadness instead of something to fear. The concept was so strange that his weapon systems actually powered down. "I am not hurt," he said, though his voice sounded different somehow, less sure than before. "But you look sad," the child said again. She tilted her head to one side like she was trying to understand something difficult. "Why are you sad?" Kethver did not know how to answer. Was he sad? He had never thought about it. Sadness was an emotion, and weapons did not have emotions. Yet something about the way she looked at him made him feel strange inside. "What is your name?" he asked, surprising himself with the question. "Lucy," she said. "Lucy Chun, what's your name?" No enemy had ever asked his name before. They usually just screamed. "Kethver," he said. "That's a nice name," Lucy said with a small smile. Are you from far away? My parents told me about other worlds with different people. They said someday we might visit them and be friends. The word was alien to Kethver. He had allies and enemies. He had commanders and targets, but friends? He did not understand. The concept, I am here to ... He started to say, then stopped. How did you explain to a child that you were there to kill everyone she had ever known? To help? Lucy asked hopefully. Lots of people are hurt outside. The buildings fell down and there's fire everywhere. Are you here to help them? Kethver stared at her. She thought he was there to help. She looked at his weapons and his armor and his alien appearance, and somehow she decided he must be there to make things better. The idea was so impossible that he could not process it. I have a cat, Lucy continued, apparently comfortable talking to the giant alien warrior. Her name is Buttons. She ran away when the loud noises started. Have you seen her? She's orange and white and very friendly. Lucy showed him a drawing from her pocket. It was made with colored pencils and showed a stick figure girl next to an orange blob with whiskers. At the bottom, she had written me and Buttons in careful letters. I don't think I've seen your cat, Kethver said, and realized he was having a conversation with his target instead of eliminating her. She's probably scared, Lucy said. The noises are very loud. I was scared too, but then you came, and you have such kind eyes. Kind eyes. Kethver had been called many things. Monster, destroyer, the death that walks, but never kind. He looked down at his reflection in a piece of broken glass on the floor. The same amber eyes that had terrified countless enemies looked back at him. Tell me about your world, Lucy said, settling more comfortably on her box like she was planning to stay and chat for a while. Is it pretty? Do you have trees and flowers? My mom says Earth has blue oceans and white clouds. I hope I can see it someday. For the first time in his existence, Kethver found himself truly speechless. This small human had done something that no weapon in the galaxy had managed to do. She had stopped him cold with nothing but words and kindness. And somewhere, deep inside his chest, something that felt like pain began to grow. Kethver stood in the basement like a statue made of black metal. His massive frame blocked most of the light from the doorway. The other humans pressed themselves against the far wall, too scared to move. But Lucy just sat on her wooden box, waiting for him to answer her question about his world. My world ... Kethver began, then stopped. He had never talked about his home planet before. My world is dark. There are no flowers. That sounds lonely, Lucy said with real sadness in her voice. Everyone should have flowers. They make you happy when you look at them. Maybe you could plant some flowers when you go back home. The idea of planting flowers seemed impossible to Kethver. His hands were made for holding weapons, not gentle things like seeds. But the way Lucy said it made it sound so simple, like anyone could do it. Why do you carry so many weapons? Lucy asked, looking at the guns and knives on his belt. Are you a soldier? I am a warrior, Kethver said. The words came out automatically, like he had said them 1,000 times before. What are you fighting for? Lucy asked. The question seemed simple, but Kethver could not answer it. He fought because he was told to fight. He killed because he was ordered to kill. He had never thought about what he was fighting for, only what he was fighting against. I fight because ... He started, then stopped again. Because why? Because the Empire commanded it? Because it was what he was made to do? Because he knew nothing else? Lucy waited patiently for his answer. When he did not speak, she reached into her pocket and pulled out more drawings. I made these yesterday, she said. Want to see? She held up pictures drawn with colored pencils on white paper. One showed creatures that looked like the aliens Kethver had fought on different worlds. But in Lucy's drawing, they were not fighting. They were sitting together in a garden, sharing food and playing games. This one is from my storybook, Lucy said, showing him another picture. It's about a dragon who was mean at first, but then he learned to be nice and helped people instead. Scaring them. Cuthbert stared at the drawing. The dragon looked a little like him, big and dark and covered in scales. But in the picture, the dragon was smiling and had flowers in his claws instead of weapons. Do you like stories? Lucy asked. My mom reads to me every night before bed. She says stories help us understand how to be better people. I do not know stories, Cuthbert said. Really? Lucy looked surprised. Everyone knows some stories. What did your mom and dad tell you when you were little? Cuthbert had no parents. He had been grown in a laboratory and trained from birth to be a weapon. He had no childhood, no bedtime stories, no one to teach him about being better. He had only known orders and battles and death. I had no parents, he said. Lucy's face filled with sadness. That's terrible. Everyone should have someone to love them and tell them stories and make them feel safe. She thought for a moment. But maybe it's not too late. Maybe you could still learn about nice things. The pain in Cuthbert's chest grew stronger. This small human felt sorry for him, not because he was dangerous, but because he had never been loved. The idea shook something deep inside him that he did not understand. Lucy stood up from her box and walked closer to him. The other humans gasped and tried to warn her away, but she ignored them. She stopped right in front of Cuthbert's massive legs and looked up at his face. You have sad eyes, she said softly, like buttons when she's scared. Are you scared too? I do not fear anything, Cuthbert said, but his voice sounded less sure than before. Everyone gets scared sometimes, Lucy said. It's okay. When I'm scared, my mom hugs me and tells me everything will be all right. Do you have anyone to hug you when you're scared? Cuthbert looked down at her small face. No one had ever hugged him. No one had ever told him things would be all right. The closest thing to comfort he had ever known was the weight of weapons in his hands. A sound came from his communication device. Commander Vex Till's voice crackled through the speaker. Cuthbert, report your status. The orbital bombardment begins. In 20 minutes, the words hit Cuthbert like cold water. The bombardment would destroy everything on this part of the planet. Every building, every tree, every living thing, including Lucy. What's orbital bombardment? Lucy asked, having heard the strange words. Cuthbert could not answer. How do you tell a child that ships in space are about to rain fire down on her world? How do you explain that everything she has ever known is about to turn to ash? Is that your friend on the radio? Lucy asked. He sounds angry. Maybe he's scared too, friend. Vextel was not his friend. The commander was his superior officer, someone who gave orders that must be obeyed. But Lucy saw the world differently. She thought everyone could be friends, even angry voices on communication devices. Lucy, Cuthbert said, and his voice was different now, softer somehow. You need to leave this place. Right now. Why? She asked. Because ... Cuthbert looked around the basement at all the frightened humans. They were families with children and old people. They were teachers and farmers and shopkeepers. They were not soldiers or threats. They were just people trying to live their lives. For the first time, Cuthbert saw them as Lucy saw them. Not as targets to eliminate, but as individuals with hopes and dreams and people who loved them. The woman in the corner was probably someone's mother. The old man by the wall might have grandchildren. The young couple holding hands had plans for their future together. Because bad things are going to happen here, Cuthbert said. You all need to get far away. Lucy looked confused. But you're here. You can stop the bad things, can't you? You're big and strong. I am the bad thing, Cuthbert said, and the words felt like knives in his throat. Lucy shook her head firmly. No, you're not. Bad people don't ask if you're okay. The bad people don't listen to stories. Bad people don't have sad eyes like yours. She reached out and put her small hand on his armored gauntlet. Her touch was so gentle that he could barely feel it through the metal, but somehow it sent shock waves through his entire body. Maybe you just forgot how to be good, Lucy said. Maybe. You've been sad for so long that you forgot there are other ways to feel. The communication device crackled again. Kethver, respond immediately. What is your status? Kethver looked at the device, then at Lucy, then at all the innocent people surrounding them. The bombardment would begin soon. These people would die unless someone helped them. Someone with the knowledge and power to get them to safety. Someone like him. Lucy, he said, do you trust me? She smiled up at him without hesitation. Yes. Then we need to run. All of us. Right now. For the first time in his existence, Kethver made a choice that had nothing to do with following orders. He was going to save these people instead of killing them. He was going to protect instead of destroy. The weapon had decided to become something else entirely. The communication device crackled with angry demands, but Kethver turned it off. He had more important things to do than report to his commander. He had promises to keep to a little girl who believed he could be good. Everyone follow me, he said to the humans in the basement. Stay close and do exactly what I say. We're going to get you out of here. Lucy clapped her hands together with joy. I knew you were here to help, she said as they prepared to leave the basement. Kethver felt something he had never experienced before. For the first time in his life, he was fighting for something instead of against it. He was fighting for hope, for innocence, for the possibility that even monsters could choose to be heroes. The real battle was just beginning. Kethver led the group of humans out of the basement and into the burning streets. Smoke filled the air and pieces of broken buildings lay everywhere. Lucy held his massive hand with her small one, showing no fear as they moved through the destruction he had helped create. Where are we going? Asked an old man who could barely walk. Away from here, Kethver said. The ships in space will start shooting soon. We need to reach the forest beyond the hills. The group moved slowly. There were old people and small children who could not run fast. Kethver found himself doing something he had never done before. He helped them. He carried the old man on his back. He lifted children over piles of rubble. He used his strength to protect instead of destroy. Lucy walked beside him, chattering about everything she saw. Look, that bird's nest is still okay, even though the tree is broken. The babies inside must be so scared. Do you think their mama will find them? Yes, Kethver said, though he was not sure. Mothers always find their children. Did your mother ever look for you? Lucy asked. The question hurt more than any weapon ever had. I told you I had no mother. That's okay, Lucy said. Sometimes people find new families. Maybe you could be part of our family now. Would you like that? Before Kethver could answer, the sound of engines filled the air. Zephyrian dropships appeared over the hills, heading straight for them. Commander Vextal had sent soldiers to find his missing weapon. Everyone hide, Kethver ordered. The humans scattered behind rocks and fallen trees. Lucy started to hide too, but Kethver stopped her. Stay behind me, he said. The dropships landed, and Zephyrian soldiers poured out. They were smaller than Kethver, but still dangerous, with weapons that could kill humans easily. Their captain, a reptile-like alien named Sektar, approached with his gun raised. Kethver, Sektar hissed. Commander Vextal demands to know why you have not completed your mission. These humans should be dead. Plans have changed, Kethver said simply. What plans? Your orders were clear. Kill all humans and prepare for bombardment. Kethver looked down at Lucy, who was peeking out from behind his leg. She gave him an encouraging smile, as if she knew he would do the right thing. I refuse, Kethver said. The words echoed across the battlefield. Zephyrian soldiers looked at each other in shock. No one refused orders in the Empire. Especially not Kethver, their perfect weapon. Sektar raised his gun. You will obey, or you will be destroyed along with the humans. Then you will have to destroy me, Kethver said. He pulled out his warhammer and stood ready to fight his own people. The battle was fierce. Kethver had trained these soldiers. He knew their tactics and their weaknesses. But they knew his too. Plasma bolts flew through the air. Explosions shook the ground. Kethver fought harder than he ever had before, because now he was fighting for something that mattered. Lucy watched from her hiding place, her eyes wide with fear. Not fear of Kethver, but fear for him. She was worried that her new friend might get hurt. Sektar managed to damage Kethver's armor with a lucky shot. Green blood leaked from between the metal plates. You see? The captain yelled. You bleed like any other creature. You are not invincible. I know, Kethver said, swinging his hammer and sending 3 soldiers flying. But I am fighting for something you will never understand. What? These weak humans? They mean nothing. They mean everything, Kethver roared, and his voice was filled with a rage that came from 30 years of emptiness finally being filled with purpose. More dropships arrived. Commander Vextel himself stepped out, his blue skin dark with anger. Enough of this madness. Kethver, you will stand down immediately. No, Kethver said simply. Vextel pulled out a control device. I can shut down your armor systems. I can. Turn off your weapons. You will be helpless. Do it, Kethver said. Vextel pressed the button. Kethver's armor went dead. His weapons stopped working. His shields failed. He stood there in broken metal, just flesh and bone against an army. But he did not surrender. You fool, Vextel snarled. Without your technology, you are nothing. You are wrong, Kethver said. He looked back at Lucy, who was still watching. Him with complete trust in her eyes. I am more than I ever was before. The final battle was desperate. Kethver used pieces of broken buildings as weapons. He threw rocks and chunks of metal. He fought with his bare hands when nothing else was left. The Zephyrian soldiers fell back before his fury, amazed that their former weapon could be so dangerous. Without any technology at all. In the distance, the sound of engines grew louder. But these were different engines. Human ships were coming. Captain Morrison had somehow gotten word to the human fleet. Rescue was on the way. The bombardment, Vextel screamed into his communicator. Begin the bombardment now. No, came a voice from space. It was the captain of the Zephyrian fleet. Kethver is still down there. We cannot fire while he is in the target zone. Even now, even after his betrayal, the fleet commanders were afraid to risk killing their greatest weapon. It gave the humans just enough time. Human fighters swept down from the sky, driving off the Zephyrian dropships. Transport ships landed to evacuate the civilians. Soldiers poured out to help in the fight. Vextel saw that the battle was lost. This is not over, he told Kethver. The Empire will hunt you across the galaxy. You will never be safe. I know, Kethver said. But they will be. He looked at Lucy and the other humans boarding the rescue ships. As the evacuation continued, Lucy ran back to Kethver. She threw her arms around his massive leg in a hug that he felt through his broken armor. Thank you, she said. I told everyone you were good. I told them you just needed someone to believe in you. Kethver knelt down so he was closer to her. Level, Lucy, I need to go away now. The bad people will keep looking for me, and I cannot let them hurt you. Where will you go? She asked, tears in her eyes. I do not know. Somewhere far away. Lucy reached into her pocket and pulled out one of her drawings. It was the picture of the dragon who learned to be nice instead of scary. She had drawn a little girl standing next to him, both of them smiling. "Take this," she said. "So you won't forget that you're good now." Kethver took the drawing with gentle care. It was the first gift anyone had ever given him. "I will never forget," he promised. Captain Morrison approached, his arm still in a sling from their earlier battle. "Kethver," he said carefully, "my people want to thank you. You saved hundreds of lives today." "I was the one who put them in danger," Kethver replied. "But you were also the one who chose to save them. That choice matters more than anything." That came before. As the human ships prepared to leave, Kethver stood alone among the ruins. He had lost everything, his army, his purpose, his place in the galaxy. But for the first time in his existence, he felt truly alive. Lucy waved to him from the ship's window as it lifted off. "Remember to plant flowers," she called out. Kethver watched until the ships disappeared into the stars. Then he activated his emergency beacon and sent a message across space. To any humans who might be listening. To any world that needed protection from the empire he had once served. "This is Kethver," he said. "I am no longer a weapon of the Ziphian Empire. I am something new, something better. If you need help, if you need someone to stand between you and those who would hurt you, call for me. I will come." The message went out across the galaxy, carrying with it a promise that would change the course of the war. The Empire's greatest weapon had become their greatest enemy. And it had all started because one small girl looked past the monster and saw the possibility of something good. Kethver picked up his broken hammer and began to walk toward the forest. He had a new life to build, and for the first time, he was looking forward to tomorrow.